Hey everybody, welcome back to the Live Ultralight podcast powered by Outdoor Vitals. Today, we're going to be doing one of your favorites, a product deep dive on a new released jacket. This is a Zulu Down jacket. For those of you watching this in video form, you'll be able to see it here in front of us on the table, as well as this yellow colored one that I'm wearing. And so in this episode, we'll be talking about really the goal of this product when we set out to design it, and then how that development proceeded and what we ended up with at the end of that. We'll cover things like sizing and color towards the end, but really just super excited to take you through another design story, another design process on a new piece from Outdoor Vitals. Brigham, always exciting to get to the end here.
Yeah.
Why don't you walk us through the initial design intent? So what was the goal setting out to design this jacket? And maybe also touch on just the name a little bit of why we're calling it the Zulu Down jacket.
Well, it's helpful to context it or give the context of our own jackets that we already have in relation to the Zulu jacket. So, I mean, we've talked about it before. You can make a jacket as warm as you want. Really, it's just a matter of how much down you put in it and as long as it can fully loft up. So right now, our warmest jacket is the Vantage jacket. We've had the Nova Pro for a number of years. We've had the Nova UL. We've got other synthetic jackets that are not as warm as any of them, but they have slightly different kind of benefits and drawbacks. But when it came to the Zulu jacket, we really I wouldn't want to say wanted to redesign but we wanted to establish where our baseline, the puffy jacket that I think most backpackers or most outdoor enthusiasts are used to kind of having in their kit in terms of like a warmth level and a weight category. Because as the warmth goes up, the weight goes up because you're putting more insulated material in there. But also, for us, we can make a down jacket weigh pretty much anything we wanted it to. But as you go lighter and lighter, obviously the jacket gets less and less warm. And I guess like kind of our philosophy is like, there's a cutoff point where we don't want to go less warm. So we want to have like a benchmark kind of baseline of what a puffy that we're going to take on a backpacking trip, and that's going to accommodate like the vast majority of backpacking trips.
Also, a durability factor to the weight.
Yeah.
As you get to some of these really, really light down jackets, they're using, especially the outer fabrics that are just, 70 or sometimes 10 denier fabric.
Yeah. The variables that make a jacket weigh what it weighs are how much insulation is in it. The main variables, the biggest influence on the weight of a insulated puffy is the insulation in it, how much of it, and then the fabrics used and how much those fabrics weigh. So you could make a really, really, really burly, durable puffy jacket and hardly put any insulation in it, and it would be, lighter than if you put more insulation in it. It just wouldn't be as warm. So yeah, the lighter you go in insulation, you don't have to go lighter in fabric, but there's jackets like we could do it, but we don't want to. We could make a jacket that weighs very little, and that would be because it has very, very light fabrics and very little amount of down in it. So, but for a jacket that you're going to take into the backcountry for like most of the backpacking conditions that most people do, so this is all just kind of to exclude northern hemisphere winter. Like this is kind of our baseline jacket.
It's most used most of the year.
Yep.
Yeah, I would agree. So, I mean, when you're going into the backcountry, especially, well, I mean, really, regardless of where you're at, there's always needs for jackets at different times. But out here in the Mountain West, any time of year, you need a jacket. Middle of summer, you stop at night, you need a jacket. And so it's like, okay, let's design the piece that fits the most there for a puffy. And that's what this was designed to be.
But I will just add, like, this is a static insulation piece. So that plays into the variables. Again, like I said, you could make a lighter jacket, a less warm jacket, and have that be down, or you could make a lighter, less warm jacket and have it be made of maybe synthetic materials and have some other benefits that come with it. But in terms of a static insulation puffy that is down, this is where we kind of are establishing this is like the baseline warmth level.
Yeah. Now I want to take a little bit of time to talk about kind of our philosophy on synthetic versus down when we're talking about the insulations here in a minute. But so our goal really was to build, in our mind, kind of the lightest jacket in our lineup that is down insulated, very warm static piece. So we're looking to make it lighter than the Vantage, lighter than the Nova Pro, and similar to where our Nova UL is, but our Nova UL will be phasing out, just as a heads up there. And so this was kind of taking that spot. And then as far as usefulness, 3-season backpacking, this is primarily going to be our static piece of insulation we're going to be recommending a lot. And so we made insulation changes, we made fabric changes, and we made feature changes on this jacket during development. Super, super happy with this jacket. I think the very first time that I took it out on trail was actually 2 summers back. I took it to the Wind Rivers. And ever since then, it has been like my go-to piece personally. Yes, we were testing other jackets at the time, and so sometimes I'm rotating through those. But for the most part, this came on the last 200 milers with me, and on a bunch of other trips. I was literally wearing mine today into the office, although I did put this, beautifully yellow one on today. For this podcast, I grabbed it off the rack in there. But it's just a super usable piece for so many things. So with that frame of context, let's talk a little bit. Let's quickly talk about just Zulu, kind of the deeper meaning there.
Yeah. So the Zulu is actually not, we're not talking about like a language, the language in, somewhere in Africa, I think. That's not this Zulu. This Zulu is the phonetic Z in the phonetic alphabet. So Zulu, the letter Z is basically used a lot in aviation, commercial aviation, and then also in like the 24-hour timeline and in kind of a military reference timeline as well. And the whole point of it is that it's a standard. It's a baseline time that is based on can't remember, maybe the prime meridian. Basically, so somebody in one time zone and another time zone, if they both want to meet at the same time, they will just reference Zulu time. There's no time zone. So it's a base of reference for anywhere on the globe that is relevant. So that's why aviation uses it, because say we fly from Vegas to a supplier that's in a time zone that is 14 hours ahead of us. So Zulu time, that's why they use that in aviation especially, is because obviously you're changing time zones over a period of hours. So that we kind of thought it was kind of a cool way to reference, like, this is a very applicable jacket, kind of that anywhere in the globe for the 3-season backpacker. It's kind of that baseline that anybody can relate to. It can apply to anybody's kit. So when we talk about a puffy, when we reference what a puffy should be, it kind of means the same thing everywhere. So that's kind of like the, some of the influence of the name Zulu.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's dive into this product. And I guess let's go ahead and just start with insulation. It's one of the biggest factors in a puffy, is what are you putting in it to actually make it puff up? So obviously this is a down jacket, but we haven't yet got into the details on this being our first ever 900 fill power down jacket, or down of any kind that we've released as of yet. So this is a Muscovy duck down with 900 fill power. So it's more lofty per ounce of insulation than any other insulation that we've used. Historically in some of our jackets, we've been using 800 or even 850. But this pushes that even farther. And it felt very fitting for us to use that in this piece, because the goal of this was just to be the lightest and warmest jacket, that we could make for the ultralight backpacker or other uses, right? So, we've tested a lot of different installations over jackets over time, but this was the first time we used 900 fill power. What were your kind of thoughts going into it in terms of testing some of the prototypes? What do you notice? Someone who's putting your hands constantly on 800 and 850 fill power jackets, jumping to that 900.
Yeah, well, I mean, or you get more warmth for the same amount of weight. So say we put 800 fill in here, the jacket just wouldn't be as warm and it would weigh the same, essentially, right? So if we're targeting kind of a weight category, because I'll just throw out like numbers to kind of bracket things in. Like, so our Vantage jacket weighs about 16 ounces. The Nova Pro weighs about upper 14s, so like 14.7, 14.8 ounces. And then we have a synthetic Vario jacket that's significantly less warm. It's about 10 ounces. So if that's that kind of discussion, if you're going to step up in warmth and want more warmth for weight than like that 10-ounce synthetic jacket, that puts us in this like 11 or 12 ounce category that we kind of wanted to target. So if we want to be, say, 11 ounces, we want the most warmth that we can get for those 11 ounces. So instead of going, with something like an 8 or an 850 fill, we really, there's almost kind of no reason not to just go up to the 900 fill, so that we get kind of that maximum warmth. Now they're higher fill powers, but there's diminishing returns and the expense is just not worth it to the customer in our mind. So, using 900 fill, it's just it's a bit of a luxury feeling like, we can put, more down in here to make sure it's as warm as we want it to be for that 11 ounce jacket.
Yeah. I mean, like going from some of our past pieces that specifically use like down LT insulation, those test out at about an 800 fill power. And so to jump from an 800 to a 900 in terms of like percentages, I want to say is somewhere around like 11, 12, 13% in terms of the additional loft for the same weight. And so something that I notice is, jumping to these jackets, especially someone who's just using our jackets all the time and has like very, very used to those jackets, is you do notice that it just feels a little bit softer. You do notice that it can compress just a little bit smaller. And then with some of the feature changes we've made, like that also kind of aids both of those. But for the weight and Brigham is now throwing the weight out there of this jacket weighing about 11 ounces, it's just incredibly warm. But I don't know, just like using the 900 fill power, I would say like there's something to it that I do enjoy about it, just being like, it just feels really soft and really like malleable and comfortable in that sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything else you want to add on the downside of things?
Downside thing. I mean, it's fun to talk about the really technical details and just what makes Muscovy down interesting. Yeah. I'll try to kind of just like gloss over it, but Muscovy down, the Muscovy duck as an animal, like it's a very large duck. It's about the same size as a goose. And the down plumes are massive, especially for like a duck, but they're just about the same size as a goose down plume. They're closer in size to goose down. In fact, if you put them side by side, the kind of the variance between goose down and Muscovy down, there's a lot of overlap to where like a Muscovy down plume is going to be as big as a significant number of goose down plumes. But what's really interesting about a Muscovy down plume is they have these side shoots of fiber that actually build more of a three-dimensional structure to the down plume. And that helps that plume achieve a 900 fill power out of a duck. But it also, this is like kind of, I wouldn't say like necessarily microscopic, but almost. It's on a very microscopic scale. But all those side fibers that kind of shoot off to the side, they do as a cumulative effect, like they do kind of have a little bit more resilience of the plume, which is really nice with a high fill power plume, because a high fill power plume, if the fabric weighs too much or there's not enough room for it to expand, it can collapse really easy because it is so big and lofty. So it's a cool thing about Muscovy duck down is that there's things about it that we like about that resilience, the ability to kind of bounce back a little bit faster, maybe. But those are properties that we wanted to include that we thought, yeah, let's bring that value to this jacket. So Muscovy duck down it's cool stuff.
With those side shoots, and I guess it's not guarantee this, but we also looked at some of the warmth values, which is measured in CLO. And they have exceptionally high, warmth values for what they are, which is really interesting to see as well. And we don't know. I don't know if the kind of that structure of the tiny hairs, kind of coming off the ends of the down as part of that, or not, or if it's just purely plume size. But they are big plumes, which allows it to achieve high loft, which also somewhere in there creates a lot of warmth. So they test really high on those CLO tests.
Yeah, and because of those little side shoot fibers, it helps actually the plumes stick together. You can see this if you get them out loosely in open air. If you like pick up one plume and drag it across another, it's going to hook onto that and like pick it up. It does that a noticeable amount more than just normal duck or goose down, just because it's almost like there's like this Velcro effect.
Mm-hmm.
So helps kind of keep things together a little bit, and those are all values that we wanted to bring to the jacket for sure.
Yeah, helps it from shifting around. And I think that really describes Muscovy and down. Really quickly, let's talk a little bit about synthetic versus down. Obviously here at OV, we make a lot of synthetic jackets. We make the Vario, we make the Ventus. We also make down jackets. And what you'll see with our lineup though, right now is that a lot of our warmer jackets are down jackets. So this being the lightest of those, the Zulu jacket, then we have the Nova Pro, and then we have the Vantage jacket. And those are all what we would consider static pieces. You're not trying to move with those or hike in those really. They're just purely for warmth. But down is still just the best thing that we've ever seen and found across the globe for the highest warmth for weight of anything. Now, the downside of down, no pun intended there, is that the way that you capture and hold down in a fabric is you have to coat fabrics, or you have to weave fabrics in a certain way that's so tight that air really can't pass through it, so that the down also can't leak out of the jacket. And so with that comes some drawbacks of breathability and things like that. The other, another factor here is just that the less down that you put into a jacket, the more you have to baffle or, the jacket, meaning trap the down into the sections of the jacket so it doesn't just shift all over the jacket. So as you remove more and more down out of the jacket, you essentially have to put more sewing lines or weaving lines into the jacket to hold the insulation in place. So our philosophy has been that once you get under a certain amount of down in a jacket, it makes a lot of sense to go to a continuous fiber synthetic, because we can take all of the stitching out of it and have a continuous sheet of insulation, as well as offer more breathable fabric.
Yeah, you can start to introduce new benefits that come via breathability. So you can start maybe using slightly more breathable fabrics. You still want to contain the synthetic insulation too, but you have more room, more ability, like you can use a more breathable fabric, and you can also, because it's not focused 100% on static warmth, and you want to be able to flex a little bit into some activity, now you can add venting and breathability features into that piece, because now you're at a weight category that it just doesn't even make sense to use down, because with down, its strength is static insulation, where breathability is not necessary or needed, because to be downproof, you lose that breathability. So.
Mm-hmm. So what you'll find in our lineup because of that is that our warmer pieces are down. And as you get down below this Zulu jacket, you're going to find some synthetic pieces that are going to offer more breathability, more flexibility, and how you're using those pieces. But it's also of our opinion that when you get too low in warmth category of down, the amount of fill of down, the amount of stitching or baffles you have to put into the jacket, essentially doesn't offer much, if any, warmth over a synthetic piece. So hypothetically, this is just an example. I'm not trying to badmouth anything here, but like if you were to take something like a Ghost Whisperer jacket that has very little down in it and has lots and lots of sewing and stitch holes in it, I would still put like our Vario jacket in that category. But the Vario jacket to me has some big benefits in terms of breathability, moisture management, venting, some things like that. But they're going to be similar in warmth, at least in category. So I'm not saying one is definitively warmer or not, but that's kind of our philosophy. As you get under a certain point, and for performance purposes, we prefer synthetic. Or if you get under a certain warmth category, we prefer synthetic for all these myriad of benefits that you can get from the synthetic side of things. Like I say, like breathability, the fabric you can use, lack of stitching, and so on and so forth. So with this piece right now, this is our lightest down piece, but it is exceptionally warm. And so let's get into some more of the details of what makes this piece so warm. Let's shift over now to the fabric itself and the stitching. What are we using in this, and how are our baffles constructed?
So, I mean, it's zero stitch fabric. Now, zero stitch fabric is we use that name for other products, other jackets that we already make. That doesn't mean that we're using the same exact fabric amongst those jackets. It's a technology, it's a weaving technology that allows you to create down chambers in a double layer fabric without stitching them together. Essentially, you weave the chambers into the fabric itself, so you don't need to punch tens of thousands of holes in your insulative jacket. So 15D nylon, zero stitch fabric. Touch on this real quick because it's the same technology that we use like in the Nova Pro and the Vantage. However, with the Vantage and the Nova or the Zulu, you'll notice it has a very matte appearance. Like it doesn't have kind of that shiny appearance. That shiny appearance comes from the process of making that fabric downproof. They're putting that through heat and pressure, through a calendaring process that essentially kind of seals things off so the down can't get through it. You can't do that with this fabric to the same effect, meaning, well, what I mean is you can't create the matte appearance and use that calendaring process for downproofing. So this fabric has to be woven like exceptionally tightly because that's the mechanism for making it downproof, is just by the number of yarns woven tightly together. So that's why we're able to get this in a matte appearance. Now, there are other ways by introducing other fiber types like spandex. But again, we want warmth for weight, so there's not any spandex in this. So again, we just want a 15D fabric that isn't going to weigh extra because the spandex fibers are heavier. But so that's how it's made downproof. But the benefit of using, when we're, again, going back to this 11-ounce category, we want it to weigh 11 ounces. We want it to be as warm as we can for those 11 ounces. So we chose 900 fill down. Had we chosen a traditional down chamber that's stitched through, this jacket would not be as warm. Tens of thousands of holes in the jacket are all space and room for heat to pass through and emit outside of the jacket rather than be retained within the jacket. That's just physics of, radiative heat loss. However, the huge advantage comes in terms of when the air starts to move. When you start to experience wind, the lack of holes throughout the jacket. It provides a substantial and noticeable boost in heat retention. It absolutely makes sense to use a zero stitch fabric. So we're being really stingy with how much heat we're willing to lose. So we're eliminating stitch holes. We're maximizing wind resistance and putting a really high fill power down in it. So the 15D zero stitch. Now, if you're familiar with the Vantage jacket, it kind of has these offset. We could call them like pinch points, but the lines that create the down chambers. That's where the two lines of fabric that are woven, that's when they intersect each other. So now the bottom layer of fabric is on top and the top layer of fabric is now on bottom because they pass through each other. And at that passing point, that create the spaces between those passing points create the space that is filled with down. So on the Vantage jacket, that's a really warm, high amount of fill weight in it. So the spaces are really big. So we can put down in there that'll fill up the spaces and loft up. So with this jacket, those spaces are more condensed. So you'll see they're still the offset orientation, but they're all closer together because there's less down in this jacket. So you make those down chambers smaller so that it contains the down and prevents it from shifting around.
Yeah, I want to take just a second too to talk about that weaving. I still see a lot of people online misunderstand how our baffles are constructed. People will think that they're heat pressed. So that's like one method of doing it without putting stitch holes through, is they'll essentially take two pieces of metal and push them together on each side of the fabric and melt the fabric together and create a baffle or a line. That process, what that actually does is it takes a bigger chunk of area where there can be no insulation because it might be like half a centimeter or so of space that is now pressed together. Durability wise, I can't really speak to that, but the big thing there is you have these bigger flat spots with no insulation in them. That's not how ours is done. I feel like there's one other method that I'm going to.
Well, I mean, RF welding. So it's they're using frequency to weld the fabrics together. It's the same thing though, meaning for it to have a durable hold on itself, it has to be a certain width. You could technically RF weld, attempt to do something that is the 1/10 of a millimeter width of, our kind of baffle points. But it would just immediately come undone. You don't get a strong enough bond. Same thing would go for like any, I don't know that there's many that do this, but like even an adhesive bonding process. But the major ones are the welding, So those, they just require so much width now that's just a dead space that it can't be occupied with anything because it's two pieces welded together.
Yeah. And so, I mean, just, I don't know, one way to look at this would be with ours though, because it's literally just the yarns themselves that are coming in and weaving within each other to create the baffles themselves. They are a fraction of the amount of space of what you'd say is dead space or no insulation space. And like we just said, like if on one of those other ones, they might be, 10 millimeters or something like that. Like on ours, you would argue like it might be like 1 millimeter, right? So it's like,
that's less than that.
You're talking about like 10 times less dead flat space in your jacket by the construction method that we do. Plus durability wise, like you can't just pull these apart with pressure. You're going to tear the jacket essentially. So durability wise, it's exceptional. It's a really complex process to do this. We use a fabric mill in Japan that does this now for these that are just, tolerances are insanely high. And it's just a very, very technical fabric. It's not an off the shelf fabric. You will see some out there that use similar processes. But just watch and look for yourself. You'll notice that some of them, those lines, those baffles are significantly wider than what you're going to see on our product. And that makes a difference in performance. So I just wanted to kind of clear that up because I feel like that's a really pronounced thing that we're doing here with these, and it makes a real difference in the field in terms of additional warmth. So it's a 15D. Some of the other quick benefits on just the zero stitch technology is you can't drag your elbow on something and accidentally grab a stitch and pop it from your stitching baffles. So we feel like there's additional durability in that from what we've seen. I've definitely popped stitches on other jackets, whereas you're really not going to be able to do that on this. Brigham mentioned the wind. That's like the most noticeable warmth thing that you'll see is this when the wind's blowing. This is a continuous sheet of fabric, and so wind cannot come through those pinholes from the needles. And then this is not the intended use, but it's really good with moisture and blocking out moisture. Just because it doesn't it doesn't hang up on the stitching and get introduced. So even if you were to be let's say just taking a drink or something like that and accidentally spill down your front, it's just going to go straight off the jacket. It doesn't have anything to like grab onto and soak into the jacket. And that's a good example also of like why the insulation in this jacket can stay cleaner and more lofted and perform longer between washes. So lots of side benefits of the Nova, the stitchless fabric that we really, really love. And, now we've got 3 different down pieces that are all utilizing it, and it's for good reason. We really like it. We've used it a ton in the field, continues to test and perform at exceptional levels. So I'm excited to be running that in this piece. Let's see. I mean, those are the biggest things. Okay, let's talk about feature set. We did change some features on this compared to, say, our Nova UL or our Nova Pro, the OGs, I guess, and that we've had for a handful of years. So what did we change and why on the Zulu jacket?
Well, so the Zulu jacket has less features. That's the easiest way to say it. So we don't have pit zips in this. And we even eliminated like hood adjustment. The hood adjustment was really an easy one to eliminate because we've been able to dial in how the hood fits and actually, just get really good heat retention on the head just by dialing in the shape and the fit of the hood with a little bit of an elasticized face opening. And so that's a feature that's not on the Zulu jacket. And then the pit zips, again, we really wanted if we're going to make a jacket that weighs this much, it's a static insulation piece. So we didn't want to worry about ventilation. We didn't want to even encourage anybody to hike in this thing. And there's a little bit of that when you put pit zips in something. Now we do have pit zips on another jacket, and that's okay. But for the purposes of this jacket being our lightest down jacket in our lineup, we prioritized fill amount or the amount of down in the jacket over, features that really are much less of a priority in a static insulation piece. So if we're going to have an 11-ounce jacket, we can remove some weight in features so that we can add more weight in down. I think that's probably the most clear way to kind of explain why we did away with those features, just because we wanted to maximize warmth.
Yes, we took the pit zips off. Hood adjustments changed just a little bit. We still have the hem adjustments. Hem adjustments honestly trap in way more heat than people give them credit for. And yeah, overall, those are part of why, in my personal experience, how I would describe this piece is lighter than the Nova Pro jacket, but every bit as warm. Because where those pit zips are, not even if you're not using the pit zips, those pit zips introduce a spot where there's, over a centimeter, maybe a little bit more than that, of no insulation. It's essentially a spot for cold air to potentially get into the jacket. So when you're talking about just like weight to warmth ratio on these, like you're going to see a difference between the 900 fill power and some of those feature set changes between the Nova Pro and the Zulu. Again, these are some preferences though. People do love the Nova Pro. It is one of our best-selling jackets. It's phenomenal. We will be keeping that in our lineup. But as far as just weight to warmth, it's really really impressive. And it just simplifies this down. I don't know how much you could say like this it's affected by like compression or stuff like that by taking some of the zippers off, but there's some effects or the draw cords or things like that around the hood. But I do feel like this piece also just compresses really, really well. So
yeah, I mean it kind of goes back to we really want this to be like this is kind of like our benchmark, our baseline backpacking puffy. So ultralight backpacking, we want to do away with as much as we can while maintaining certain levels of performance, and performance that we wanted with this was warmth to weight. So yeah, especially for in terms of there may be maybe broader customer base with a more featured jacket, but yeah, for like the guys that really want to spend a lot of time in the mountains, and by guys I just mean people, guys and gals that want to spend time in the mountains, like this is like it is the baseline piece for us because we've done away with features that really aren't going to contribute to warmth just so that we can trim down the weight while maintaining as much warmth as possible.
Yeah. Let's talk about sizing. This piece is going to initially launch in both women and tall sizing. So excited about that. But
well, yeah, to clarify, women and men and tall sizing for men.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
So what we're going to have is on the men's side, we'll, range from a small to a 3XL. And then we're going to have two sizes and a large. Now we have released things more in a large, but realistically, these two sizes are by far the tall sizes that are ordered, which is you can get it in a large tall or an XL tall. Makes sense too, because as you get into like 3XLs or 2XLs, the jacket does just get longer in general. The sleeve length gets longer in general. But so there's a couple tall options for you tall guys out there. And then for women, we'll release this from a small to a 2XL in a women's cut as well. So be on the lookout for those sizes. We do have a growing number of women ordering from us. So we'll continue to roll sizes out in that. I know in the Vantage jacket, we are working towards getting women's sizing in that piece as well as soon as we can. So last thing I think is kind of pricing. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to touch on.
Just real quick, colors. I mean, they can see them. So we've got 3 colors, and they'll be for the men and the women. So we've got I would say our most neutral tone or colorway is the Chimera. It's a really cool color. It's a carryover. We adopted it from the Vantage. It's like a gray. There's kind of some green in there.
Yeah, it's like whatever you put it against, it'll look gray or just really dark, or it'll pull out some green tones if you put it next to some other stuff, but not like olive green tone, like just a slight tint of like a dark green.
Yep.
But for the most part, most people will see this and think it's like a gray, but really cool color.
Yeah, and they're all
popular in our Vantage.
Yeah, for sure. And they're all kind of like a chalky matte appearance. So then we've got Bluestone, which is also, it's kind of just like a chalky, lighter blue. Trying to think what we've got that. I think the Vario blue is the closest blue that we have in other jackets, but this is less. Would you say less bold or less? There's less blue in it.
This is more unsaturated, so I almost see this as a light blue, gray, but still like with kind of grayish undertones, where it just doesn't come off as like a vibrant, deep saturated blue, but more of a unsaturated blue, and so it to me, I really like that because it's just less bold. If you cared about matching this with anything, but still gives off that really cool blue color. The only other thing I can think of is it's definitely not the same as this, but like our Skyline shorts are in a blue.
Mm-hmm.
That blue might be kind of similar, but yeah, the Vario is probably the most similar, but I definitely prefer this color.
Yeah.
But you'll have to check it out for sure.
Yeah. And then Ty Curry, that's what you're wearing. Also like
it's like yellow and gold.
It's like a goldish yellow and again, kind of that less saturated, kind of chalky.
It also has that, like, when the leaves are turning in the fall and there's like that mode between them going from yellow to orange.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I see when I look at this. I see like those fall leaves turning color of yellow, between yellow and orange.
Yep.
Which is like, I don't know, for me, it's like one of my favorite colors to see in nature. It's just so unique. It's just so unique. And that's definitely what I see in this jacket. It's not like a strong yellow. I wouldn't even call this a mustard yellow. It really is like a burnt autumn leaf.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm really excited to release this. We did also release like a golden color in the altitude. It's done really well for us. And I wouldn't say these are not the same colors, but kind of like these newer yellow colors we've had people, asking for them, and it's exciting to release something with just a little bit more pop. I'm really excited to see what the verdict is when people start ordering these, and see how many people pick this out of the lineup. So okay. Pricing wise on this, I'm not going to give you an exact price on this. You can click over to the website to see that exact price, but we are able to keep this at the same price or slightly under what the Nova Pro pricing is, which I feel like is a huge win since we jumped over to 900 fill power. And we've worked with this fabric, which this fabric is just a little bit more technical and costly to produce. So really excited about that. So you're looking at somewhere right in that like 230, 240-ish range on this piece. So really excited about that for what this jacket is. It's a tremendous value. I'm excited though. We've worked on this piece. We've been working on this, side by side with the Vantage piece. The Vantage piece blew our expectations out of the water, in terms of sales. I mean, we flew through certain colors within, felt like days. And I mean, I haven't looked lately, but I'm pretty sure we've got to be getting close to all of the stock being gone for till the fall.
I know, it's almost like we don't even carry it. It's like it's a weird thing to have
launched a piece,
released it, and then it's almost like it just doesn't exist anymore. Glad we have another jacket.
Yeah. And I mean, we're like, for these technical of pieces, and we've touched on this before, cycle of production is long, like 10, 11 months. Just the fabric itself can take us up to 6 months sometimes to make. And so keep that in mind. That's like with the Vantage piece, we blew through that inventory, and it's just going to take us, clear till the fall, essentially, to get that back in stock. So if you love these jackets, with the way that some of our launches have gone the last few months, I wouldn't hesitate to just get yours on the earlier side of things, because your favorite color may stock out, or maybe even your size. But really excited to be releasing this piece. Just another phenomenal piece in our whole lineup, all of our apparel, our layering setup to be releasing. Like I've already mentioned, it's a piece that I would just say that it did exactly what we set out to do in the beginning when we outlined what this piece was for. What I mean by that is, it is the piece that I have used more than any other jacket over the last, I would say, 2 years. It's just the most warmth for weight. It's not overly warm. It's not underly warm for a lot of occasions and a lot of opportunities to use this piece. And it's just fast become like I would just say like my staple for majority of my backpacking trips. So I really think that people are going to find a similar use for it as they take it out into the field, whether it be in the winter or whether it be them taking it out into the backpacking field. So really excited to have it out. Any final thoughts?
No, I think we've covered it pretty well, and yeah, we can just wait at this point, see what happens.
Yep, we're always excited. It's always exciting from our side of the table too to get these released and just see the feedback and see what colors people are picking out of the lineup. So if you do happen to pick one of these up, please leave us a review. Let us know what you think. We read those reviews. We love to See what people think, especially those of you guys that'll spend a little bit of time in the pieces and then come back and leave us a review. It's really valuable for design, and it does help shape the future of OV. So please do that. Super appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast, being a customer of ours. We just finished a phenomenal 2025 year. Super excited to be in 2026, and just continue to make great products and have great customers. So appreciate you guys as our customers, and we'll see you guys in a future video.